Welcome, everyone. My guest today is Lead Analyst Logan Mohtashami to talk about new home sales, existing home sales, and the data that shows why the recent talk about a massive housing bubble in southern states is just plain wrong. Logan, welcome back to the podcast.
It is wonderful to be here. I'm in lovely Tampa Bay, so I'm sorry. I'm going to have to bring out the shades, right? Get my Tampa Bay hair going on. And it is a lovely city, and just want to say something because we've gotten all these, messages and, trying to explain about the new home sales sector and a housing bubble in the South, new inventory. Listen, guys, I hate to break this to you. Nick Grill from Texas is ultimately the biggest doom porn housing person in America. Okay. This is the guy that said housing was in a bubble in 2020, which means I'm being gracious here by saying it's just a 20% decline from 2020 levels, which we take 34 to 37%, means he's off by 57% on his home price crash call. Do you know, Sarah, how bad you have to be off by 57% on a national home price crash call in 5 years? He did it. Homie did it, right? So I'm just walking out here in Tampa Bay. It's a beautiful city, beautiful people. Everyone's walking to work. It's not this doom and gloom that some people make it out to be. And this is why we always want live debates. We like to light people up. So we're going to try to clear some confusion here on the new home sales sector and talk about purchase application data for new homes and existing homes and how different they are. And do we have a structurally historic bottom right now in purchase application data?
So I'm so glad we're talking about this because I do think there's a lot of questions when it comes to new home sales. It's often misinterpreted. You always do an analysis of it. Also, this person's name is Nick, Gerli, so maybe Gurley as opposed to Gurel or whatever. I don't know how you say his name, but we are talking about it because he put on Twitter, he's like, a massive housing bubble has developed and is about to pop in the South. The number of new homes for sale in the southern region, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, etc., has spiked up to nearly 300,000. This is the highest level of all time, even higher than the previous bubble peak in August. So this is why we're talking about it, because we get a ton of questions when someone posts something like that, like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And we hear it on the consumer level. Even some, people, professionals are wondering, like, what does that mean? Because he's using these numbers. So Logan, you're the perfect person to talk about what this means. Let's start with the 300,000 number.
First of all, there is 99,000 completed units ready for sale in America. That's the whole country. Okay. This is to destroy this theory right away is that during the housing bubble crash years, new home sales were running at 1.4 million. They had an 82% crash all the way down to the low 200,000. Even with the housing bubble crash, the biggest spike in distress inventory and inventory in the history of America, that data line never even got to 200,000. All that matters is the units completed for sale, right? Because the builders, what they do is they take a contract, right? It's not all spec housings. They take a contract, they build a home. That person, which is in contract, then moves into the home. Right? So that's how it works. There's going to be always slippage in terms of the inventory. Naturally, it doesn't go to zero. So naturally, the inventory is growing, right? The active listings, but it's nothing to do with actually the housing bubble years because they're already in contract. If the cancellation rates were riding very high, and then you saw completed inventory really spike up and the builder stocks are down 50, 67. No, one of the most outperforming sectors, in the stock market has been the builders, right? Because a lot of them can pay down rates and they could sell the home. So there is no avenue for the new home sales sector to even create millions of inventory of homes. They don't show you the completed units charts ever, right? Not to mention also new homes purchase application data has actually been rising really since 2022. It's not falling like it was in 2022. So this is where I realized that nobody actually knew that there's actually a new home sales purchase application data line, right? I said, well, all these people are coming, but purchase application, I said, do you guys know there's a new homes? And then I show it to them. And they're like, oh my God, I didn't know this. So the source that you're telling you didn't even let you know that that purchase application data is still in an uptrend. It's not even at 2022 levels. So there's a lot of confusion because it's designed to elicit a market reaction to your head. That, oh my God, it's 2008. It's 2008. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Right? And it's just, this is what this group does, right? This is why I want live debates. This is why I want forecasts. But let's just remember, this is the guy who said housing was in a bubble in December of 2020, which means 2020 levels are going to have this unbelievable crash. And it did the exact opposite. It went up 20%. So always be skeptical of new home sales data. There's an economic story behind it that the smaller builders are building up completed unit sales. They are not going to be issuing permits, right? If rates don't fall down, then you got an economic tick, but you can't do the 2008 story here, right? And 2022, November 9th, Sarah Wheeler, when we said, hey, listen, if the forward-looking data gets better, what happened? If I urge everyone, go look at every single builder stock on November 9th in 2022 and tell me what happened, right? So be careful who you listen to in America. Don't listen to that guy. The guy's the worst of the worst.
So we've talked about how inventory in general is in Florida and Texas accounts for about 40% of the total inventory of the country. I think there we're talking it's existing homes, not new homes. In your opinion, while that's important, you always point out that these are two of the most populous states and where people are moving. So from your perspective, what lens should we look at when we're looking at the South, quote unquote?
When we look at the South, right, look at the coastal areas, right? And what you always want to do is, and this is why Altos research is very sought after by Wall Street and real estate investors, what you want to see is unbelievable growth in new listings data, which calls stressed sellers, right? That's what happens. Now, Sarah, what they never tell you is because they never even knew the data. None of these people actually show you the new listings data from 2008 to 2012. They don't even have the access to the data lines. They have no idea what we're even talking about. None of these are housing experts whatsoever. But new listings data, when we saw stressed sellers from 2009, I'm going to use the 2009 and 11, it was 250,000 to 400,000 per week. We are running at the lowest. 2024 is going to be the second lowest print ever in history, right? So you can have inventory growth, but the stressed sellers, the distressed sales, all these things that were correlated to 2008, that period of time, that once in a lifetime, and I urge everyone, if you go look at the history of nominal home prices since 1942, it is very rare to have home price declines, but to have a 2008, you would need unbelievable stressed sellers because most sellers are buyers, right? And this also explains why home prices aren't crashed 2022, 2023, 2024. Home sales are trending at the lowest levels ever recorded history when you take the labor force, and there is no home price crashes, right? Right? Because to have something like that, you need distressed sellers. You need the nation to come together and everybody starts cutting prices. Price cut percentages go up crazy. Like the 2022 data, the slope of our housing data, the curve was very fast. Because we were working from the lowest levels ever, the slope was super fast. And even in 2022, home prices were up nationally just because that data line stopped on November 9th. The forward-looking data started to turn, right? Purchase applications started to go positive, everything, and the whole dynamics of housing changed. They're running the same story over and over again. So this is why we have the tracker data. This is why real estate investors, everybody's, especially in Florida, especially in other places, they come get our data. We can break down over 60 different data lines at every single zip code. And that is the real way to do it instead of tagging a 2008 line out there. While active listings, 4 million in 2007. Active listings, 1.128 million today. Anybody who functionally understands arithmetic cannot put these two things in a 2008 mode, right? One is down here, the other one's up here.
So the person who asked me about this, because he had friends asking him about this, made a really good point. He's a millennial, and he said, I feel like millennials just have PTSD from from 2008, from that financial crisis. And when you think about it, they didn't have a lot of life experience before that. What they saw is your home can crash in price. They might have gotten, foreclosure. Their parents might have lost their jobs, whatever. Like that was their growing up years. And so I think they're more susceptible to this kind of thing of like, it's about to happen again.
This is why everyone needs a Logan in their wallet, in their purse.
A nerdy friend.
Yes. We always say, everyone in America needs one good nerdy friend who just looks at data, doesn't care. It's just simply what it is and can explain that. See, I could explain why home prices are at all-time highs in 2024. Homie Nick has to explain why his bubble crash from 2020. Sarah, I am being so graceful by just saying a 20% decline, because if you're using a bubble, that's much aggressive. So to be off by 57% is hit. No, it's like playing. See, I think a lot of these people never played sports. It's like playing a football team and we're up 76-0 and there's like 2 minutes left in the game and they get a first down and they start jumping up and down and thumping their chest and get a first down. Dude, you all lost. Everyone, you all lost. You do not have the privilege to ever talk about housing ever again. But my job is to explain why, right? And the new home sales data, this is why I created the Fight Club rules, right? The Fight Club rules were we never, under any circumstance on planet Earth or any other planet in the universe, in hell or heaven, or even where the Morlocks live, you do not use the new home sales inventory data to the existing homes. This is like two different. This is Godzilla. This is baby Godzilla, right? And all we can say is go look at the completed units for sale. It's 99,000. In 2007, we had 4 million active listings. In 2008, unit completed sales never even got to 200,000. Go get your calculator. I usually say don't get a calculator. I want you to get a calculator and do the percentage out there of how much did the new home sale market really drift into the completed sales into the inventory. It doesn't work that way out here.
And just to make sure everyone knows, we do not pick on small accounts. We do not pick on, this person has like 5 million followers on YouTube. He's pretty influential. You see it pop up in a lot of people's timelines. So that's what we're here for, to say, hey, this is why we feel like it's worth talking about. So, and I think it just points to the larger problem that we've seen from a lot of people that are very confused about the new home sales numbers. And one of the things I like about the way that you do your analysis is you do break it down until like, here are things ready for sale. Here are things under construction. Here's a whole bunch that is not under construction yet.
So there is actually more homes that haven't even started digging dirt, right? There's over 100,000 new homes that haven't even started getting the shovel into the dirt than there is completed units of sale. And this is a historic, right? This is a historical level. When we think about monthly supply, majority of the monthly supply are either under construction or hasn't been started yet, right? And this is why there's no spike in inventory. Remember, these are the same people that were doing this in 2022, taking the monthly supply charts and going, oh my God, inventory is back to 2008 levels. What? And that's why we always have to enforce the Fight Club rules, because majority of all inventory comes from the existing home sales market. It's just a massive marketplace. The builders don't allow this to happen because it ruins their business model. Why? Why, Sarah? What are the builders not?
The builders are not the March of Dimes.
They are not the March of Dimes. They are not here for charity. They're here to make money. If they can't make money, they're not going to build. So it's a contract. Take the contract, build a home. That contract buyer, unless it's a spec, moves into the home. That is not unsold inventory. And purchase application data for new homes is still in an uptrend, which it's really crazy to me to think this, but I was like, oh my God, none of these people knew there was actually a new home sales purchase application data. And now I showed them the chart and they're like, oh my God, I feel like an idiot. Yeah, because you listen to the idiot. So who's the bigger fool? The fool or the fool who follows him? Obi-Wan Kenobi, Star Wars. Millennials might not get that one.
Well, and, I love it when you get passionate and go on a rant about this. So I do have a question for you, because, when we look at those things that are started or things that are finished, is there transparency in how many homes are built under contract versus how many homes are built for spec? Do we know that?
Specs are not very big ever, right? Specs are usually done in areas where they know they can sell them. This is why it's not big. Majority of all contracts are done are actually get these people into the room, get them pre-qualified, and go. You know why? Because the cancellation rates have to happen, because the builder can't sell you that house at close, right, if you're not qualified for it, because you can't get the loan. So this is why majority of all contracts are actually loans or start from the contract initiated, then the building goes. Because do you know why, Sarah? What they don't also tell you is that you designed the house, right? So you get to choose, right? Not everyone has, a person's taste might change, right, by the time. But if that person is no longer qualified, the cancellation rates blow up. That's what we saw in 2022. We saw single family permits fall. We saw new home sales fall. And then it stopped after November 9th. And the builders then pay down rates. They move the products. So this is not a thing, right? This is not and I just want to remind everybody, by the time it was June and July, when the builder stocks all took off and home prices didn't crash, we got to all-time highs within 6 months. These are the same people who are like, what happened? Reading is a good thing. Now, I personally believe that Nick and all of these people know this. They're just hustling people, right? Nick and them believe that you people don't read, so they take advantage, right? This is why I would say men who don't read get taken advantage from fanatics, because you can manipulate you, right? Zero Hedge and all these people, they manipulate these men very easily, right? So this is how we get cult groups, right? So come here, come to me, come to Chart Daddy right now. And let me explain everything.
It's a bit small, and we're going to get the term chart daddy trending at some point here.
Chart daddy right here.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the data points that, from your perspective, and we cover a lot of these in the tracker, but if we were seeing stress, where would you see it in the housing market? Anywhere? What are the data points people should look at to see, are we in a stressed environment or are we not?
So we're going to break this up into two things. We're going to use the purchase application data. Now, the purchase application data came out today. It was another positive week. 4 of the last 5 weeks have been positive, right? So what are the rules we have for purchase application? You need at least 12 to 14 weeks of weekly growth. You could have trend growth, break it out to 20 or 25, but you need growth for sales to pick up, okay? The new home purchase application data is actually almost to 2020 levels. Remember, it's a trend survey. It doesn't mean new home sales are going to be up to 1 million on the monthly print. It's just a trend survey, right? So if there was stress in the new home sales sector, we're going to talk about new and existing. New home purchase application data would be falling. Cancellation rates would be picking up, right? That would be the big thing. Now, the economic side's where I like to talk about, which is terribly boring, I know. That there are builders, smaller builders, who don't have the luxury of bringing rates down, so they are pulling back on issuing permits, right? So if that continues, then once these homes are already built out, because remember, the new home construction, single-family construction, did not get back to an all-time high in this cycle, right? It is still low. The builders have enough people in there because they've already took off a lot of the labor that they didn't need anymore. They're just on the backlog right here. So it's a grueling little process on the economic side. Trust me, it is literally trying to, it's like, a Treyu and never-ending story. You're that horse stuck in mud. You're just to break this down systematically on the economic side. But here, that's how we see stress in the new home sales market. New home purchase application data falls, cancellations, and sales decline, and monthly supply and units completed sales would skyrocket, like in 2008. Not happening. Builder stock. It's so funny. The median sales price, everybody said that the builders are getting crushed because they're crushing the prices. They readjusted. By the way, nobody ever follows census data for home prices. We warned everybody for 4 years. They did the readjustments and it's not that bad. And all of a sudden, here it is. The builder stocks were outperforming, and everybody is like, the builders are getting killed. Have you seen their stock? I don't know. They're cutting prices and they're paying down money for mortgage rates. Their profit margins should be crumbling, right? Sarah, this is such a key. Not understanding that the profit margins were elevated post 2020 really hurt a lot of analysts and fake housing experts, because they don't realize that the builders aren't the march of dimes. They're going to pay to get money. That's just the new home side. Let's go to the existing inventory, which is the big tamale here. When we see stress, we are going to see the new listings data go vertical. Okay, we're going to see new listings data go vertical. We're going to see existing inventory go vertical. That's what we saw into, if you go, especially if you look at the NAR charts that we've used in the past, that went vertical. You don't really get to see vertical inventory, but it does happen in stress. Why? Because if most sellers are buyers and you cannot sell to buy another house, the ability for inventory to escalate is there. And another thing is home sales peaked in 2005 and they crashed. It took 3 years to get there, but it crashed in 2008. During that period of time, inventory went vertical. And then we saw the distressed inventory in 2005, 6, 7, 8, right? All these events we go to, those charts that we put up, it was in the data. People were filing for foreclosures and bankruptcies, doing an expansion. What? Because the credit markets were breaking. None of that is happening for 14 years. It's 14 years now. Come on, people. When we see it, vertical new listings, vertical inventory, distressed sellers, foreclosures, 30, 60, 90, 120 days late, NOD filings, those things will all go up in scale. And we will see it in the national data because we can't miss it because it's working from the lowest levels ever. And this is why the funny part was the Airbnb crash, which is another one of these doomer myths. The year that we were supposed to get the Airbnb crash in 2023, right? Because 2022 was the end of the world, was the lowest new listings ever recorded in the history of America. Sarah, can you mess up any more than that? The 1 year that was supposed to get the massive rush of new listings and stress ended up being the lowest level in the history of America. Everyone is going to die to the grave on this one. You can't take that back. In 2024, it's the second lowest. I'm not even going to get my minimum 80,000 that I was looking for this year. We're going to be like 72, 73. So we will see it first, us. We have the data. They don't. Trust me. They're copying and pasting other sources. We have access to everything. There are things that we do not share to the public that only our private client does. Trust me, we will get it. I will get it Friday night, and I will write about it on Friday night, and Saturday morning it will come out to everyone, and you will know it first, but not them. They do not get a pass anymore after the utter unbelievable garbage that they've been talking about for many years. And the Airbnb bust was a great example. Like, how do you go from the biggest new listing spike ever in history to the lowest new listings data ever recorded? Credit channels run inventory channels. That's how it works since the Peloponnesian War, right? Or actually since qualified mortgage came in 2010. So let us cook. Let us do what we do best. We're the data miners here, right?
We are the data. Yes, you are the data miner. And I think that's the thing. Like we talked about all through 2023, we're like, it would be great if some of those Airbnbs gave up their put it on the market. We're like, listen, do it. You could have all of them come into the market. We still wouldn't be back to normal levels.
The best story of 2024, and I went on CNBC early this year and talked about, hey, listen, inventory is going to grow this year, right? The mortgage rate lockdown people, those people are kind of crazy as well, right? So that's a whole different story, but. Higher rates do one thing, right? You put a home on a market. If it takes a little bit longer to sell, which the days on market are growing year over year, inventory can build up. We're working from such low levels that we can get the build. Now, think about this. It took rates to get to 6 to 8%, and with issues in Texas and Florida, with insurance and property taxes, and we're still below the historical averages. And it's the third year of this. Something isn't working here. Why? Because the credit markets were fixed after qualified mortgage. Most human beings are functioning adults, right? They wake up, they go to work, their kids go to school, they come home and have dinner. Some have sex. They wake up, go to work, take their kids to school. They do normal things. They're not doom porn people, right? That's why I just went to Tampa. I just walked around the streets. I had to do a video. I said, everyone, look, Tampa is a functioning city. It's a beautiful city. Doomers, listen, you have to let this go because it messes with your head if you're and you lose your hair early, like in your 20s, 30s. It's not good. You have to enjoy life, and you can't constantly do this. It totally messes with your head.
Bringing hair into it. That's a low blow, Logan Mohtashami. Not everyone can have your hair.
I am showing mercy on a lot of things, Sarah Wheeler.
Okay, well, what else do we want to focus on? We talked a little bit about purchase apps. What else can we
Yes.
learn from that?
So here's the thing with purchase application data. Have we hit a historical bottom here? Okay. So the reason I talk about this is I try to get people to realize that not much is going on in the mortgage world, right? Until rates fall. So 2 times now, at the end of 2022, rates went from 7.37 down to 5.99. Purchase application, they had 12 weeks, right? Growth. While rates were at a certain level, we were still growing because we were using a very low bar. Then rates went up. Okay. Then that was it. Purchase application data didn't grow anymore. Last year, rates went from 8% down to 6.5% roughly. And we had 8 weeks of growth. Elevated levels still, right? Elevated level, but it gave us 8 weeks of growth. We had 2 months of positive prints, and then that was it. That's why I wrote that in March, but the February report, it looks like to me it's going to be the peak of the monthly sales because rates are going up. I'm not, Fed's not going to pivot yet. And we'll talk about Jerome Powell here next. But here, we're elevated. The last 5 weeks, 4 of them are positive. 5, we're not crashing anymore, right? This is a huge thing. If you're not crashing in sales, if you're just dead on the ground, do you have the same economic variables that we want to use for 2008, which saw home sales go from 7.62 million? We got well underneath 4 million. If rates fall, if this is the beginning of the labor market getting softer, because Jerome Powell talked about, maybe inflation is not the concern and the labor market isn't as tight as we used to be, if that's the concern, if this happens again, oh my God, if this happens for the 3rd time, if rates go down and demand picks up for it and you're still doing the 2008 stuff, oh man, I just no, you guys got to let it go. So the reason I talk about historical bottom is that here we are elevated with 7% rates and we're not going down any. This is the non-seasonal period time too. So we'll keep an eye on these things. But if the labor data gets softer, because the Fed is starting to God, they're so slow. Sarah, they are so slow. They're starting to talk about, okay, we're not getting our stuff here. I don't want to, I always tell people, if I had a gunfight with all the Fed presidents, am I going to win? I'm going to win. Why? Because they're
like, think about a gunfight with Fed presidents.
No. The reason I say this is because they have a dual mandate, price stability and in full employment, or employment needs to be good. What about a dual mandate? So if the Federal Reserve is going, well, we need more confidence. I already shot my gun. When they pivot, the labor market is breaking. And they're no longer going to go, no, they're going to highlight the labor market is getting weaker. We have to think about that. They have told us this time after time. People don't listen to some of the things they say. Of course, I'm such a nerd. I remember everything. They have said, listen, Jerome Powell, we watched jobless claims. Remember, jobless claims runs all. We watched jobless claims. It's going lower. It's not going lower anymore. It's going up the last few months. Right? Job openings, we hate job openings. Americans are making too much money. Job openings, 12 million. No, we're 8 million. Jobs quits. Americans are leaving work for higher wage jobs. That's bad. Oh, no, the quit percentage is pre-COVID. So it's taken a long time. I understand how everyone's frustrated. Everyone tells me the Fed's going to pivot. I go, no, they're not going to pivot until the labor market breaks.
So just to cap this off, Jerome Powell's been in front of doing his congressional testimony last couple of days. What's your takeaway there?
Well, to me, he's not going to blurt it out in Congress. Obviously, I think for some people, the Basel III is going to be pretty watered down. So I think banks are going to be happy with that. But to me, it was just, what is it? Mother economics serial killer? Crumbs, right? Jerome Powell gave you crumbs that they're mindful now of the labor market. They're not choosing to pivot or anything, but they're mindful of it. So if jobless claims gets worse, you're starting to get to the Fed is going to finally pivot, and then it's a whole different ball game after that. But what we all know right now, what we know to see is when rates fall, because sales are so low, demand can pick up. We'll take it from there. But we'll have the live weekly data for everyone to read, and you will be well ahead of everyone else out there. So you don't have to wait for old stale data to have any kind of mindset of what's going on in the housing market.
Logan, thank you so much for being on today. Thanks for walking us through the
Oh
new
yeah,
home
now
sales.
we're going to a cocktails with Logan event, in Tampa Bay in a few hours. So we're gonna have some more fun and get to talk more nerdy.
You love it. I know. Thanks so much for being on.